Operation Market Garden relied on swiftly capturing several vital crossings over rivers and canals from the Belgian border to Arnhem. 4 major waterways cut across the Allied route of advance, and so capturing these crossings was critical to the success of the mission. The Allies deployed their paratroopers against them to grab them as quickly as possible. However, the 2 most formidable of these, the Rhine, south of Arnhem, and the Waal River, north of Nijmegen, proved to be quite challenging. Nijmegen and its bridges were the responsibility of the US 82nd Airborne Division. General James Gavin, the division's commander, decided to focus first on securing his flanks before making a move on the city's bridges. Gavin had no way of knowing that Nijmegen was only thinly held by a few small units that his paratroopers could have easily swept aside, but this controversial decision bought the Germans time to rush elements of the 10th SS Panzer Division to man the defences of the bridges. The first to arrive were SS Untersturmführer Werner Baumgartel's company from the 10th SS Panzerpioneer Abteilung. The engineers set to work preparing the defences and making sure that the Nijmegen bridges were rigged for demolition. Next came SS Kampfgruppe Euling, fresh from Arnhem after having skirmished with Lieutenant Colonel John Frost's British paratroopers of the 2nd Parachute Battalion. Euling deployed his battalion from the 22nd SS Panzergrenadier Regiment as a Sperrverband, or blocking force, in the positions prepared by Baumgartel's pioneers. He also took 4 Jagdpanzer IV tank hunters under command and dug them into pits, incorporating them into his defences. The main road span over the Waal River at Nijmegen was protected by Euling's men. Engineers, infantry, anti-tank guns, self-propelled anti-tank, and the infamous 88s were well entrenched in Hunner Park, just south of the Nijmegen span. One of these heavy anti-aircraft guns was placed in the Kaiser Karlplein traffic circle for an all-round field of fire. The 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne had attempted to force Euling's positions, but were driven back. The paratroopers pulled back and waited for 30 Corps tanks to arrive. The job of taking the bridge fell to the infantry of the King's and No. 4 companies of the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, supported by tanks of No. 1 Squadron of the 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guards. As the Grenadier Sherman tanks poured into the area, the 8.8 cm Flak 36 gun emplaced in the traffic circle engaged and destroyed several British tanks before finally being knocked out. The Grenadiers and US paratroopers pushed through Euling's outer defences, but the SS troops just fell back and continued the fight closer to the bridge. Only after several hard-fought hours did the Allies finally breach Euling's final perimeter and force themselves across the bridge. The Grenadier Guards lost 130 men during Market Garden, with most of these in the battle, but by the end of the battle, No. 4 Company, who call themselves the SOB, Shit or Bust Company, of the Fighting First, had opened the way for Sergeant Robertson of No. 1 Squadron to cross the bridge before the Jerrys could blow it. Euling's men never gave up, and even managed to escape capture during the middle of the night, finding safety on the opposite bank of the Waal. For his actions at Nijmegen, Euling was awarded the Knight's Cross. That piece of writing was from a Flames of War publication called A Walk in the Park, The Battle for Hunner Park, obviously part of the Nijmegen offensive in Operation Market Garden. But we are quite limited in Men of War Assault Squad in our ability to represent this battle. There isn't a map with a large bridge to really represent the scale of the crossing that the Allies had to attempt, so we've used this map to represent the battle in the town, with the Jagdpanzers and the anti-tank gun emplacements. So this is the battle that occurred just before the bridge crossing. So as you can see in the video, the Allies take a real pounding, which is unfortunately the truth of the engagement. They had very heavy losses throughout the operation. Although this bridge crossing ended in victory for the Allies, the overall operation was a serious failure. So although this battle here went quite badly for the Allies, and went well in reality, the overall picture is represented by this skirmish here. It was not a success for the Allies, but initially it went quite well for me. My M7 priests are representing sextons, because you can't actually get sextons in Assault Squad, but the priest is very similar. They're both on the Sherman chassis. The sexton's opening barrage destroyed a great deal of my friend Eccentric Greek's forces. Eccentric Greek is playing the Germans in this game. Yes, my opening artillery barrage did some real damage. But he was very well entrenched. His Jagdpanzers were dug in, his Pack 40s were dug in, his infantry were dug into the houses. And later on I attempt a tank attack along the left flank, which goes horribly wrong. So overall it was a real bashing for the Allies, but by the end of the match, this particular match, both sides have got almost nothing left. I think I had 3 men left, and Eccentric Greek had less than half a dozen, so it was a stalemate really. But we did in fact endeavour to keep the order of battle realistic or historically accurate. We've actually used the orders of battle as close as we can. We've reflected those. We tried to parallel them from the Flames of War document. So Sperverband Euling and the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, supported by 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guards and the 505th Parachute Regiment, are both represented as they appear in the Hunner Park supplement, and those forces are as follows. SS Hauptsturmführer Karl-Heinz Euling himself, the leader of the blocking force, a HQ unit with 2 Panzerschreck teams, 2 Stützpunkt platoons, those are at full strength with Command Panzerfaust SMG teams, an SS Tank Hunter platoon with 4 Jagdpanzer 4s, those were dug in. You can't actually properly dig pits for tanks in Assault Squad, so we represented that by placing sandbags in front of the Jagdpanzers. An SS anti-tank gun platoon, which was Pack 40s, and Eccentric Greek spread those around like he did with the Jagdpanzers. What he did usually was he paired up a Pack 40 and a Jagdpanzer 4, which was quite a good idea. They could support each other while one was reloading, the other one would fire. And my tank attack fell apart in moments when I tried to push the left flank because there were half a dozen cannons waiting for me in total, so yeah, my Shermans. I did have 2 Fireflies, and I think I killed 2 Jagdpanzers with those, but the Jagdpanzers and Pack 40s have both got very low profiles, so they weren't easy to hit. So eventually my Fireflies were knocked out as well. Continuing on with the Sperverband, a motorised SS artillery battery with 3 10.5cm LEFH 18 howitzers. Now that exact weapon is luckily in Assault Squad, unlike the Sextons, so Eccentric Greek had 3 LEFH 18s on his side of the map. A Luftwaffe flak platoon with 1 flak 36, or 88 as it's more commonly known, and 2 20mm flak 38 guns. And those really teared up my infantry when I tried to storm the town, as you'll probably see. Well, it's sort of off-screen because I was too busy focusing on my tanks to notice my troops being torn up, and that was quite nasty. And my allied forces, I was playing the Allies, a motor company HQ, 2 motor platoons, a motor machine gun platoon, a motor anti-tank platoon, a guards mortar platoon with 4 3-inch mortars, 2 armoured platoons, each with 3 Sherman 5 tanks and 1 Firefly 5C, a parachute rifle platoon, and 4 self-propelled guns, which are represented by the priests. So that was the order of battle. The American, or I should say Allied force, was slightly larger, but the Germans were dug in. They had much better positions. We were completely exposed. So that's probably why, even though it was a very close game, the Germans just managed to clinch it. So now I'm going to switch over to the live commentary, which came from Eccentric Greek and myself in a Skype call. There may be the odd piece of bad language, so other than that, I hope you enjoy the commentary, I hope you enjoy the gameplay, and I'll see you soon. Ow. Vaporised 2 of my men.
That's just carnage. I think I took more casualties.
Really?
Yeah, what the hell?